One of the first videos that I made on this channel was about how the Pokemon games can improve. Recently I've played through and beaten some more Pokemon games, including Crystal, Fire Red, Emerald, and I have gotten pretty far in Platinum. Going through some of the older games, I noticed that Pokemon has come a long way since the beginning. Unless you're a Gen 1er, I think we can all agree that Pokemon has improved in many ways. So I'm going to go over 10 ways that the games have gotten better over the years. This video will cover anything that has improved since the first generation of Pokemon games. So even if the improvements came in Generation 2, they will still count. Also, the items in this list are not in any particular order. Before we get started, our subscriber goal is to get to 500 subscribers. If you're not subscribed yet, please do so to get notified of more videos like this one. Now without further ado, let's get started with the first way Pokemon has improved. The first generation Pokemon games were very glitchy. It's very interesting to go down the rabbit hole of people breaking the game and doing all sorts of crazy things with glitches, like fighting Professor Oak.
Come on, coward. No, come on. You're not an intellectual. You're a fake and a fraud.
Or getting soft-locked within a few minutes. There were also a lot of programming errors and oversights in the game. For example, critical hits were based on the speed stat, so fast Pokemon were insanely good. Even Generation 2 had some errors. I was surprised to find out that a lot of the apricorn balls that Kurt makes were programmed incorrectly. For example, the fastball only worked on 3 Pokemon. The love ball worked on the same gender instead of the opposite gender as it was supposed to.
Ha! Gay!
And the Moon Ball did nothing special at all, since it accidentally targeted Pokemon that evolved through the use of Burn Heal, which is no Pokemon, instead of a Moonstone. I don't even know how that happened. Did nobody test the balls after programming them? Did they just have someone do it for their college assignment, but they ran out of time so they just submitted it without testing? If you ignore games like Shining Pearl, Brilliant Diamond, and Scarlet and Violet, the Pokemon games have gotten a lot more stable and have a lot more polish to them. They aren't perfect, but they are nowhere near as broken as the very early games. Generation 3 brought abilities to Pokemon. Abilities might seem like something small, but they can really elevate a Pokemon. There's a great variety of abilities in the Pokemon games. There's ones that are useful outside of battling, like Run Away, which makes it so that you will always successfully flee from a battle, or Pickup, which makes it so that your Pokemon may pick up a random item after battle. There are also, of course, great abilities that help you in battle, from ones that make you immune to or boost certain types of moves, to doing things like having a chance to poisoning the opponent if they attack you with a physical attack. There are also some bad abilities, like the infamous Slow Start, which halves the Pokemon's speed and attack for the first 5 turns of battle. Abilities can make a Pokemon a threat or a joke depending on what they do. I think this made the games a lot more fun, as it made Pokemon feel more unique, and it could be the deciding factor of which Pokemon to use if you're looking at 2 similar Pokemon. This might not sound that important at first, but items have improved a lot since the first Pokemon game. There were not a lot of different kinds of items in the first generation of Pokemon. Held items were first introduced in Generation 2, which are hugely important in the Pokemon games. Held items can give a variety of effects, like abilities. In fact, having a good held item is almost like giving your Pokemon a second ability. There are items that give boost types of moves, items that make your Pokemon immune to certain types, and items like the choice items that boost certain stats, but only let you use the first move you select. In the Gen 6 games, there were also held items that let you Mega Evolve your Pokemon. Some Pokemon like Cubone even got their own special items. There's also very useful items that don't affect the battle, like the Lucky Egg, which gives your Pokemon extra experience, or the Smoke Ball, which is basically the same as the ability Run Away. Another type of item that was introduced in Generation 2 was berries. Berries are useful items that you can find throughout Pokemon games, and even grow them yourself in some of the games. You can give them to a Pokemon to hold and they will automatically use it, or you can use it on them manually. They can do a variety of things, such as heal your Pokemon when its health is low, cure it from poison, or gain back PP from a move that it is low on. One last thing about items I wanted to touch on is that the storage of items got a lot better throughout the series. It might not seem like a huge deal, but in Gen 2 and 3, I had to put a bunch of items in my PC because I ran out of space to hold them.
To know each other in the pot. I'm serious about this stuff. I'm up the night before.
In Gen 4, your bag is much better organized, so I didn't have this problem. It was annoying to have to choose which items to hold, so having a bag with better organization and more space was greatly appreciated. It got even better in Gen 5, which gave you unlimited bag storage, which completely fixed this issue. This is similar to my complaint with the item space. In Gen 1 and 2, storing Pokemon was really annoying. The interface wasn't great and you had to save the game each time you wanted to change a box. Starting in Generation 3, the interface became much more sleek and showed the actual sprites of the Pokemon instead of generic ones. You could also do much more with your boxes and Pokemon, like adding tags and other things to them. It got even better in the later DS games when you could use the stylus to easily move around Pokemon in the box. It might not be an enormous improvement to the overall game, but these small changes really add up. I bet a lot of you saw this one coming. Some of the changes I've mentioned weren't super impactful to the gameplay, but this one was a massive change, and in my opinion, a huge improvement. In the first 3 generations of Pokemon, the type of a move determined if it was physical or special. This may have seemed like a good idea at first, and the types that fall into each category make sense for the most part. A type like Fire being special and Rock being physical makes sense to me, but I don't know why Ghost was physical when Dark and Psychic were special. In my opinion, Dark and Ghost should have been swapped. This was really annoying when Pokemon who learn a lot of special type moves have high physical attack and low special attack, and vice versa. For example, I wanted to use Gengar in some of my playthroughs, but since Shadow Ball was a physical type move and Gengar has terrible physical attack, I decided to just use Alakazam. I didn't even know, or maybe I forgot this was a thing when I went back to play some of these games. In Fire Red, when you can pick Hitmonchan or Hitmonlee, I saw that Hitmonchan could learn the elemental punches and picked him because those moves are awesome. Then later I realized those all counted as special attacks, and his special attack is 35 compared to his 105 physical attack, which made its Fire Punch about as effective as dumping rubbing alcohol on your hand, setting it on fire, then punching a lake. Things like this happened all the time before the split. Since Generation 4, the moves themselves are categorized as physical or special, regardless of the type, and a lot of new moves were added to each type. This made the game so much better in my opinion. Moves like Bite or Crunch were made so much better by now being physical, since it's such a common move for physical attacking Pokemon. This helped make a lot of Pokemon better, which leads to the next point. Playing Pokemon Crystal made me realize something. A lot of the Pokemon, especially the Johto ones, used to have really bad movesets. Oftentimes I would look at a Pokemon I wanted to catch, look at their moveset, see that it was terrible, and then decide not to get them. I think the moveset started to get a lot better in Generation 4. A lot of new moves were added, and since the physical special split happened, a lot of Pokemon were given moves that better fit their stats. Let's look at a few examples of Pokemon whose movesets have improved over time. Look at Rhydon's moveset in Gen 1.
This is the worst!
It's horrible. It only learns normal moves. Now look at the moveset in Gen 5.
Hey, that's pretty good.
It learns a much better and bigger variety of moves. It also learns moves that aren't just normal type moves. Isn't that great? Here's another example. This is the Gen 2 moveset for Feraligatr, one of the Gen 2 starters. It's not terrible, but it barely learns any moves. Now here's the moveset it gets in Heart Gold and Soul Silver. It's much better and has a better variety. This is especially annoying when you have to conserve your TMs. It's also pretty lame if your Pokemon only learns a move like every 10 levels. It doesn't feel like it's growing or evolving. This is even worse if the move it learns isn't even good. It's not fun to wait till level 40 or 50 to learn a decent move. The newer games added much better movesets. It also helped out some types like Bug types who barely had any good moves but later got much better moves. There was another big change that helped out Pokemon movesets. When I was a kid, I rarely used TMs. They seemed rare and special, and I didn't want to waste them. I didn't have the same approach when I recently replayed the games, however it was still annoying that you could only use a TM on one Pokemon, especially the very powerful ones like Ice Beam or Earthquake. In Pokemon Fire Red and Emerald, I would spend a bunch of my money at the game corners just to get tokens and then exchange them for TMs like Ice Beam or Thunderbolt. The only issue is it cost a ton of money to do this. This was all remedied in Gen 5, where they made TMs reusable like HMs, but unlike HMs, they could be replaced. I think this made the game a lot more fun. It made it so you could really build each Pokemon to what you wanted them to be, without having to do any duplication glitches or cheat. I know some of the newer games have gone back to TMs being single use, but in these games, you can craft new TMs, which I think is a good middle ground. It's a lot better than only getting one of them in the whole game. Just like TMs, HMs were also changed. HMs were kind of annoying in the early games. Surf was a great one because it was also a great move, but other than that, you basically had to have one or more Pokemon that you dumped a bunch of HMs onto. Gen 7 started the tradition of having no HMs. They were instead replaced by various other game mechanics. I think this is a big improvement, especially story-wise. Most of the early games consisted of you needing to get an HM at a gym, because the next area was blocked by a tree, or water, or a rock that you needed the HM to overcome. Both of these changes really made the game feel less limited and more fun in my opinion. This one is simple, so I won't go too much over it. As you can see in the thumbnail of this video, a lot of the early sprites were pretty bad, especially the very early Japanese ones. They got a lot better in Gen 2, and even better in Gen 3. The newest Pokemon games may not be the most graphically stunning games out there, but they are still good for the most part. There wasn't a lot of customization for your character in the early games. Pokemon Crystal was the first game to let you choose your gender, and games since then let you do that, but you weren't able to do much else until the later games. The Switch games offer a lot in terms of customization. In Pokemon Sword and Shield, you can customize your character a decent amount and buy new clothes for them. In Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, you get a lot more access to character customization. I really appreciate the ability to customize your character in these games. It makes the experience more personal and fun. Ever since Gen 2, Pokemon games have introduced pre- and post-evolutions for past generations of Pokemon. These Pokemon have been hit or miss with fans. I really like Gliscor and Dusknoir, which were introduced in Gen 4, but a lot of people do not like Rhyperior, and what they did to Dunsparce is or should be illegal.
This is terrible. Absolutely terrible. Nothing about this is good. Not one thing.
Newer games have also brought new forms of Pokemon, which I think is a really cool concept. Again, some of these are cool like Alolan Marowak, while some are not like Alolan Persian. I think some Pokemon could really use new evolutions. It helps bring life to Pokemon that were just once meh, and makes them a lot more interesting, as long as they aren't lazy about it. So those are 10 ways that I think Pokemon has been improved. Replaying the older games really made me appreciate the new things the series has done. I still love those games, but many of the things in them have since been improved. If you want to watch some ways that I think the series can continue to improve, you can watch this video. How do you think the Pokemon games have improved? What's one of your favorite changes? Let me know in the comments below. I am hoping to start making videos again, so be sure to like and subscribe. Our goal is to hit 500 subscribers, so help us reach that goal. If you want to see more of my videos, check out the recommended videos or look at my channel. I make videos covering a variety of gaming topics. Thanks for watching this video and for your support of the channel.